Ash Ketchum is gone forever. But that doesn't mean there isn't over 1,000 episodes plus worth of content tackling the journey of this guy and his little yellow rat. And on top of that, we now have Pokemon Horizons airing, leading to a total of not one, not two, but 8 different Pokemon shows. That's a lot of Pokemon! But what series is the best? What series gives you the greatest Pokemon experience? Well, today I'm here to rank all 8 Pokemon series from worst to best. Now, I want to make it clear this is just my opinion, and you can enjoy any aspect of Pokemon that you want. I'll be looking at several different categories today to determine my list, that being Pokemon, characters, battles, arcs, and anything else I find cool or defining about the series. With that said, the worst series by far is Pokemon Journeys. This is easily my least favorite series. I still see that there is a lot to love here. The battles can be really fun, it has some awesome character returns, and it obviously let Ash become the best like no one ever was. But for me, it just really didn't work. For one, Journeys is the only series in the anime's history to be episodic, meaning that each adventure is standalone, a completely different feel from any Pokemon season, which I feel kinda destroys the whole adventure aspect us fans are so familiar with, and something I personally loved. On top of that, the series takes a complete 180 halfway through, and decides to serve as the end of Ash's journey, which I guess you could argue puts it more in favor, but in my opinion only makes it a writing mess, with important development happening off-screen and most character returns being stale or inconsistent with previous writing. It feels like Journeys was a necessity and not an active passion project, which in my opinion hurt the series from finding its own identity. On top of that, the characters in this series are far less developed than in the others, which includes Ash's team. For a show like Pokemon, naturally it heavily focuses on the characterization of the Pokemon, and Lucario, Gengar, Dragonite, everyone else really besides Sirfetch'd, what a goat, just didn't do it for me, and they could have benefited easily from more characterization. In fact, I disliked Journey so much I'm actively rewriting it, and the series is available right now to watch on the channel. Up next, we have the Advanced Series, Generation 3. Now, if I'm being honest here, this is a really solid season of Pokemon. I just haven't watched it in a really long time, so my memory is a bit foggy when it comes to the season. That said, Ash's character arc of overcoming his ego is something I'll always remember. May is an awesome addition, Max is, well, Max. And Brock is my goat. I love this man. Forever gonna love him. He's awesome. The battles are pretty good, and Ash's team is solid and well developed, and of course the Battle Frontier arc is some of the best Pokemon ever. The reason it's so low is just because I'm not nearly as attached to the Advanced Generation as the others. It was one of, if not the last Pokemon season I watched, so I had already grown to love several other characters more than these ones. The show is still good though, and I can easily see how this could be someone's favorite, but it just doesn't hit as hard for me personally. Sceptile is him though, what a guy! Up next is the series that started it all, the original series, which covers both Kanto and Johto. This series is very comforting for me, as it has a completely different vibe from any of the other seasons. First of all, the humor is some of the best in the entire series. And I know this is all for kids and not the Japanese version, but I watched the dub, and Ash is an absolute savage in the dub. This man is a savage. On a more serious note, this show just has a lot of charm. The OG trio has a lot of character and have several arcs to progress them as actual characters. I can confidently say Ash from the beginning of Kanto all the way up to the Silver Conference is the most consistent stretch of development simply because it's all one show. The Pokemon are also super memorable. There's a reason people still talk about Pidgeot, Charizard, and goddamn Butterfree till this day. It also has some of the best moments in the series. The first episode, Charizard finally trusting Ash, the Johto League, the first farewell, and Tracy! Don't tell me you guys forgot about him again! The reason the series is this low is once again just due to me having more attachment to the others. I won't lie, pity badges in Kanto and the abundance of bad filler in Johto also brings the series down a bit for me as well. But there is so much to love here, and I will always love coming back to the show that started it all. However, the series that takes the number 5 spot is the XY series, arguably the most popular portion of the anime. This series is great. It has awesome battles, great characters, and some of the coolest moments in the show, including my favorite arc in the entire show being the Team Flare arc. Pokemon really felt like a shonen anime at this time, which was only amplified by Ash Greninja, which is single-handedly one of the most badass things to ever be in this series, and something I've never really been the biggest fan of. The reasoning for Ash Greninja is a little too convenient for me to fully get behind it, but like I said, that doesn't take away from its cool factor. XY just doesn't hit for me as much. Everything is good, really good, but Serious Ash didn't really do it for me. I mean, he's cool, and I like him, but I much prefer Ash when he's a little bit more sarcastic and goofy. I also wasn't the biggest fan of the Kalos League. While the Sawyer and Alon fights are very good, the league itself was very lacking and didn't really feel like a tournament. My hot take is I actually enjoyed the XY portion of the anime more than the XYZ part, just because I enjoyed the episodes and dynamics more, and the series just had a better vibe in XY for me personally. The series is also really standalone, which makes it hard for me to really take this as a potential stopping point for the series. I mean, the only continuity we get in this series is a brief mention of Dawn and her Piplup, and the name Dawn isn't even mentioned at all. I know this portion of the anime is very popular, and I can see why, but for me, XY is a very fun series that in my opinion could have benefited from a bit less boring filler and some more connections to previous seasons. Still objectively, it's one of the best though, and one I recommend to friends when they want to watch the Pokemon anime when they're just getting into it. You probably noticed that a certain series wasn't towards the bottom. Best Wishes, or Black and White. Yep, I like Black and White more than X and Y. Now, before you kill me, just know this is entirely bias, as Black and White was the first series I watched, start to finish. The series has a great vibe, in my opinion great characters, and Ash's Pokemon, while probably his weakest team, have great personalities. My boy Oshawott will not be slandered in the comments. You hear me? Obviously, the biggest gripes most people have with this series is Ash's reset. Which, I mean, yeah, is not great, but I still think he has a great personality in the series, and on top of that, when he gets back to his level around Gym 5, he actually is really cool, and the battles are enjoyable. Yeah, I'm not going to defend the Unova League, like, at all, but the gym battles were good, and the tournament arcs throughout the series were some of the most enjoyable sections of Pokemon in general, and stuff like Operation Tempest gave us pretty much the only interaction between Ash and Giovanni, which is still really cool to see. Overall, Best Wishes isn't great, but it's personally my comfort show and is always going to hold a special place in my heart. Alright, now it's time for my 6th rewatch. But before I get to that, we have to go to the top 3, and next up is Pokemon Horizons. Now, this ranking could easily change as Horizons is far from finished, but so far it's honestly on my way to becoming my favorite season. The main trio of Liko, Roy, and Dot is phenomenal, with all 3 of them being enticing and interesting characters. Liko is a breath of fresh air for the series, as she's much more introverted as opposed to Ash. Roy is just more Ash, so it gives you that familiarity, and Dot is one of the best and most relatable characters I've seen in Pokemon ever. On top of that, Freed and the Rising Voltacklers give the show a kid-adult dynamic we've never seen in the series before, and the villains being confident the whole time is a nice change of pace from Team Rocket. The more plot and story-driven atmosphere also helps the show a lot, and while there are some slow moments, the first 25 episodes are the best batch of episodes I've ever seen in Pokemon. And with the recent arc covering the Gym Challenge in a new and exciting way, Horizons has just been a complete breath of fresh air, and I've needed this from the show for a long time. However, like I said, it's not done yet, and could completely fumble in its second half, which is why it's only at 3 for now. Maybe when the series is over, I'll come back and change its ranking in a follow-up video. Coming in the runner-up spot is Diamond and Pearl. You already know why this series is so far up. It's just that good. This was the last time it really felt like all of Ash's growth had reached its fulcrum. Ash vs. Paul is still one of the best battles in the series, and has so much emotional impact for both Ash, Paul, and Infernape's characters. Dawn and Brock also work excellently with Ash to form the DP trio dynamic. I love this sibling-like relationship between Ash and Dawn, and how Brock has to be the voice of reason, while continuing to simp over every girl he sees. This series also has a fantastic sidecast consisting of both game characters and anime original ones, and every Pokemon in the series is well developed and excellent. This show really allowed the Sinnoh region to feel alive, and it helped amplify Generation 4 for me tenfold. It has everything you could want from a Pokemon series. Even the filler is good! So yeah, Diamond and Pearl deserve to be here. It was the last time everything felt connected, and was the magnum opus for Ash up until that point. Something I'll never forget. But it's not my favorite, as that goes to Sun and Moon. I can't begin to describe the love I have for this series. I think we can all say when Play-Doh-faced Ash got revealed, a lot of us were drawn away by Sun and Moon, especially after coming off of XY. But I stuck around and have to say, this series just hits, man. The characters are all super lovable, having great interactions with each other. I also love the sense of found family Ash has with Kukui, Burnett, and the Alola region as a whole. Never has Pokemon created such a connection between Ash and the region he's in. Alola really feels like a home to Ash, his friends are his family. It's just such a vibe. Despite axing the 3D camera, the Pokemon battles are incredibly fluid and fast-paced, and the change in art direction allowed for even more fluid character movements to allow the series to reach new heights of animation. Ash's Pokemon here are also some of the best developed, such as Torracat overcoming its mentor's death and Lycanroc's whole arc on Ula Ula. And let's not forget about what is in my opinion the best league in the series, the Alola League. Every character's story was ended just so great. And on top of that, we got my favorite battle in the series, Kukui vs Ash. This was also the series Ash became champion of a region, and out of all of them, I'm so grateful it was Alola. Now check out these videos here to enjoy even more high quality Pokemon content.